indeed an honor to be here tonight and share this keynote position with such a distinguished Democrat as Barbara Jordan. We are meeting tonight to carry on the American Revolution, a revolution begun 2 centuries ago as brave Americans committed themselves to a new hope, a hope for freedom, and the hope that in freedom the bounty of this land would be plenty for all. And this experiment in freedom continues every day, and it is a revolution we will continue to win. There are doubters. There are those who believe our nation as a beacon, as the last best hope for mankind, will now fade as only a glimmer in history. But you will not accept that. I will not accept that, and the American people will not accept that. There were doubters in the early days of our nation, too, who said freedom would be anarchy. But we can be thankful there were also our democratic forebears of Jefferson and Jackson and Madison, willing to risk greatly for great cause, waving security aside and setting out to shape a future not only with Constitution and law, but also with concern for the common man, and concern that those less able to compete not just be consigned to the slag heap of history. The framers of the Constitution made mistakes, even as we today, and for all their emphasis on equality and justice, they chose not to include all men and women of those colonial days as working partners in this experiment in democracy. And in particular, the failed commitment to strike the shackles imposed by race has continued even into today, with the final awakening in our day that all of America must work to correct those errors of the past. And we stand firmly committed to a new day of equality. And that equality not only for future generations, but in our time, now. This convention has the responsibility of setting other goals, too, in our time. Can we establish a framework involving capital and investment, business and labor, profits and wages, guaranteeing that every American willing and able to work will have a job, a paycheck? We can and we must. Can we see that the ability to provide homes for our families and food for the table and schools for our children is not worn away by grinding inflation that leaves that paycheck worth less and less? We can and we must. And can we finally guarantee full, equal opportunity, full advantage and protection under the law to every man and to every woman in America? We can and we must. Tomorrow evening, this convention will consider our party's contract with the people, the platform which expresses the full range of the many other concerns that we share. And as we begin our 3rd century, we can take justifiable pride in adopting that forward-looking statement of purpose. Our party has been criticized by some for having too many programs, trying to do too much, too rapidly. Sometimes our hopes have exceeded our reach. But listen to these words of Franklin D. Roosevelt. Governments can err, presidents do make mistakes, but divine justice weighs the sins of the cold-blooded and the sins of the warm-hearted on a different scale. Better the occasional faults of a government living in the spirit of charity than the consistent omissions of a government frozen in the ice of its own indifference. Of course, we must correct any excesses and inefficiencies, and on a high-priority basis, but this party is a great party because of its compassion, and we must wear that compassion like a medal. We are the best hope for those searching for jobs, for senior citizens trying to make a go of it on eroded income, for the sick unable to afford good medical care, for the handicapped and the underprivileged. Our compassion, our willingness to help, we must never lose. We are at a time in history when we must move to make real our promise as a nation. But our ability to do so is endangered by a growing problem of utmost importance, a problem not easily defined, not easily addressed by a platform, and not easily discussed in a keynote speech. The problem is doubt. Doubts beset too many of our people, and a growing lack of confidence threatens to limit and restrict what we can be. Ideals, beliefs, and confidence are hallowed in a democracy. They are crucial. They give the resolve, the will, the drive to do all else. They will define and make final the shape of all we will someday become. But personal ideals and beliefs, once commonly held, based on the strength and guidance of religion, of community, of stable personal relationships, are weakened as we rapidly change homes and jobs and ties that once more clearly shaped our lives. And confidence in the control each one of us has over his or her own future, that vital feeling of independence, so typically American, has been shaken for many as bureaucratic red tape increases, as change upon change in the way we live sweeps over us with no longer the luxury of a generation to adapt to the new, and as the very size and complexity of our institutions, whether government or private, leaves us feeling somehow tiny and insignificant, without control. I say no American, nurtured on the ideal of freedom and proud of skills, abilities, training, and judgment, can feel comfortable when his or her future slips more and more into the hands of others. And in recent years, we have been battered by other events which would shake the strongest confidence. The tragedy of a war that divided us terribly and for so long, the horror of assassination and days of drums, of domestic violence and Americans set against Americans, and the unprecedented disgrace of Watergate. Doubts. Yes, there are doubts in a nation that is the envy of the world. There are fears in a nation that has provided a good life for more people than any nation in history. And there is lagging confidence in a nation deserving of our pride. Doubts, fears, lagging confidence, well, no wonder. With all that has befallen us, a lesser nation might well have collapsed. That we have been able to take it, I say, is a demonstration of the strength of our system, and above all, a magnificent tribute to the good sense and stability of the American people. But we shouldn't be too surprised. Consider these facts. Americans today are better educated, better informed, more aware, more perceptive, and more capable of thinking about and making decisions than ever before in our history. More capable of truly participating in government. A government not only of and for the people, but also, more importantly, a government by the people. These people, 215 million people, make me extremely optimistic. We are these people, we are America, and we are strong. With that base to build on, the key to restored confidence, to restored control for each of us, to restored freedom, lies in renewed partnership between citizens and their government. Now is the time for a bold and responsive government to forge that partnership. A time to harness quickly the spirit of renewal we saw expressed so beautifully and so vividly just a week ago. A time to incorporate that fervor in real citizen participation in government. A time for citizens to accept their obligation to participate. A time to reestablish the people's faith in government, and more importantly, a time to demonstrate government's faith in the people. But that mutual faith, that partnership, can only grow and flourish in a climate of openness and full understanding, and that means giving the people of this nation the facts. It is time to bring decision-making into the open, with the pros and cons made clear, the good and bad, the true costs of programs, a time to strip away unnecessary secrecy, a time to recognize that government has been patronizing the people, talking not over but under their heads, and now we must put a stop to it once and for all. As we work together to shape our future, there are keystones from the past we must treasure. An emphasis on freedom, to be sure, but a freedom with concern and compassion for all, whatever their capabilities. And a continued recognition that the driving force behind our past success has been freedom's incentive for each person to do it on his own. And a continuing, typically American attitude of curiosity of how can we do it better? A tradition of research in everything we do. A concern for justice and human rights throughout the world, and a determination that our policies must promote and never threaten those rights, and a firm pride in the old American ideals of honesty and decency and integrity, straightforwardness and reliability that are fundamental for any free people able to live together in harmony. But these keystones from our heritage are not enough. We need purpose. And as we move forward, we can have control over our lives. We can define our goals, decide the kind of people we want to be. We have a most competent people, and we can make this greatest experiment ever tried a shining example to people throughout the world. But one additional critical selection must be made. To make real that hope, we must select new leaders, leaders with vision, leaders who will set a different tone for this nation, a tone of opportunities sought and seized, a tone of national purpose. For ours is a people tired of drifting, a people determined to shape their own future, a people who will not have it any other way. This is no haphazard drift to the future, but pride and accomplishment together, a pride not passé, a pride not old-fashioned, but pride in a new patriotism, a patriotism based on participation, a patriotism based on accomplishment, a mature patriotism, not just unthinking obedience, not unquestioned veneration of government decisions made on high, not my country right or wrong, but rather my country when right to be kept right, when wrong to be put right. And when I speak of patriotism, I speak not of fireworks and salutes, but of a partnership of public citizens and government at all levels. And when I speak of patriotism, I speak not of parades and displays, but of American inventiveness and determination bent on useful and peaceful work, starting us toward our tricentennial better able to achieve and to lead than any nation on earth. And when I speak of leaders with the vision to take us there, I speak of a Democratic president and the next Democratic administration. In 1962, my space flight took me from San Diego to Savannah in 8 minutes and on around the world. In spite of all the activity of those moments, I could not help but look at this country, at our land, at my land I felt so far away from and yet close to, and think how rich and diverse a land ours is. But too often we stress our shortcomings, our divisions, instead of our common blessings. And we must be thankful for those blessings. And in a speech I gave after the flight, I closed with these words: as our knowledge of the universe in which we live increases, may God grant us the wisdom and guidance to use it wisely. And tonight I would only repeat that same hope and prayer for wisdom and guidance for our nation and our people. We face great problems, but we also face great and wonderful opportunities to build a nation, to correct those faults where we have fallen so far short of what we should be. We can build that nation, and we meet here tonight to select leadership not only for ourselves, but leadership that will affect the whole world, to select purpose, to select in our time our own challenges to greatness for this convention, for our Democratic Party, and for all Americans. And I say to you tonight, now is the time to erase divisiveness and despair, to keep the good from the past, to add our own good, to look to the future, to build a nation of justice, a nation of equality, a nation of opportunity in which we can be proud patriots. That is our hope. That is the hope of this nation. The future is in our hands to shape. Let's get going. Thank you. Thank you.
very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Keynote speech, political equivalent of the sales manager's speech, talking to the salesman, always concluding with, "All right, men, now get out there and sell." John Glenn, a candidate for vice president, he hopes, being considered by Jimmy Carter in any case. He asked his friends who were here in the hall tonight from Ohio and other states not to put on any big demonstration for him because it would look as if he were campaigning for vice president. He thought that unseemly and didn't want to do it. John?
The Ohio delegation, however, did chant, "We want Glenn, we want Glenn, we want Glenn," as he approached the podium tonight. The next keynote speaker in this Democratic convention first night will be Congresswoman Barbara Jordan of Houston, Texas. She will be the first woman and the first black person ever to make a keynote address at a Democratic convention, and she is quite a speaker. We'll be back with more coverage of tonight's session after this.
After considering hundreds of 75 automobiles, Road and Track magazine picked the Volkswagen Rabbit to be one of the 10 best cars in the world, and the best for under $3,500. Toyota, Datsun, Pinto, Vega, Honda, Fiat did not make the selection. The Volkswagen Rabbit made it. It's the best car in the world for under $3,500. You gotta drive it to believe it.
Once in a while you stop, just for the fun of it, and then you stop for the fun of it again. And while there's many a good reason to own a Kodak pocket Instamatic camera, one good reason for the fun of it.
Double the fun of taking pictures with a Kodak Tele-Instamatic camera. A Tele-Instamatic camera has two lenses inside that let you take pictures two ways. Normal shots, and with just the flick of a finger, telephoto shots.
And while there's many a good reason to own a Kodak pocket Instamatic camera, one good reason for the fun of it. Once in a while you stop. NBC presents the seasonal events.
The power, the passion of best-selling novels. Soon they'll ignite explosive dramas and unique television. Watch for the NBC bestsellers.
The seasonal events on NBC.
I have a message of interest to you from Fidelity Federal. We now have 11 convenient offices to serve you throughout Middle Tennessee. Fidelity Federal in Donaldson, in Madison, in Green Hills, in West Nashville, in Woodbine, in Brentwood, at Nolensville Road in Harding, at Rivergate, in Dixon, in Lebanon, and of course, here at the corner of 4th and Union. As a savings and loan customer, one of your interests is convenience, and Fidelity is the Federal that looks after your interest.
Wrap House is entering its 5th year of service to the Nashville community. Services offered through Wrap House include Wrap group sessions, a crisis intervention hotline, an information and referral service, and individual counseling. You can call Wrap House at their hotline number 242-4281, or you can visit them at 1013 17th Avenue South. Individual and community growth is what Wrap House is all about.
WSM-TV Nashville.
Other convention notes while we're waiting for the introduction, and that will be a filmed introduction, incidentally, of Barbara Jordan, the Congresswoman from Texas, the evening's second keynoter. We have more, at least the UPI has more, on why Peter Rodino, the Congressman from New Jersey, pulled out of the list of, got himself off the list of those being considered to be the vice presidential nominee. He explained that he had dropped out because he suffers from glaucoma in one eye, says the UPI, and he felt that this could prevent him from giving his all to the campaign. A very attractive man, David.
I like him a lot.
Congressman Rodino. We also have this from President Ford. President Ford made a speech tonight in Washington. He said, I made my speech especially short because I didn't want to deprive any of you of the opportunity of watching another convention. He says he's going to the All-Star game tomorrow night, says he's going to be preoccupied during the second session of the Democratic Convention. David?
I want to give the news about Charles Sweeney. Is that all right?
Yes.
Okay. Charles Sweeney is a delegate from Ohio. He is 6'2", and he weighs 200 pounds. He and a group of other delegates from Ohio were in a restaurant here in New York for dinner last night. They came out. Sweeney's car was parked at the curb, and he saw somebody trying to break into it. In fact, had broken into it and stolen, among other things, his camera. He went over, grabbed this person while the others called the police. The police came, took the robber away. Sweeney went to the police station to sign the papers and so on. Came back and found the police had towed away his car. And they wanted $75 fees and fines before he could get it back. That's where the story ends at this moment. On the platform?
They're looking for a man named Harry Heckheimer. He will be 100 years old in December, and he was at the 1912 convention. Somewhere in there. They are paying tribute to him, but they can't find him to pay tribute to him. So let us all pause a moment in honor of Harry Heckheimer, 100 years old in December and still at it.
I think I've told you this before, but when I worked on a newspaper a long time ago, they sent me to interview a lady who was 100 years old and asked her the usual stupid question, how do you feel? And she said, I feel terrible. How would you feel if you were 100 years old?
Now they're going to dim the lights in the hall behind us, as you see there. We're going to have a film introducing Congresswoman Barbara Jordan, Democrat of Houston, Texas, who will be the second keynoter this evening. The film should be coming up now.
I recognize the gentlelady from Texas.
Earlier today, we heard the preamble to the Constitution of the United States. We the people. It's a very eloquent beginning. But when that document was completed, I was not included in that we the people. My faith in the Constitution is whole, it is complete, it is total. And I am not going to sit here and be an idle spectator to the diminution, the subversion, the destruction of the Constitution. The task we have before us is a big one. It is reason and not passion which must guide our deliberations, guide our debate, and guide our decision. That's all. My goal is to represent, in the truest sense of the word, the people who send me here with the label representative. The correspondence we've received is for Gainsborough. My greatest satisfaction is being able to get something done in Congress that I wanted to get done. And my greatest reward has been those little small successes that I enjoy doing and want to do. My childhood was just the typical childhood of a poor black youngster coming from low-income area, willing to work hard, but I played, I had fun. I had parents who were very strict disciplinarians. My father in particular would not suffer failure quietly. And no matter what you did, it just had to be the best that you could crank out of yourself. I've been told that from time to time I am too caustic and impatient with people, but that impression is probably occasioned by my desire to see everybody function at more than 100%. I can't describe the feeling I get when I go into the district and there are people who have had their problems resolved as a result of my efforts or the efforts of the people in my office. includes a definition of commercial activity. I feel good about the country. I feel good about our ideological underpinnings. Even though we have become rather dispirited and cynical, we still believe in where it is that we want to go. If there are any patriots left in America, I'm certainly one.
Barbara Jordan, there she is, being escorted to the podium. The audience here for the first time this evening is standing. They're all standing. They're all applauding Barbara Jordan, the second keynoter of the night.
It's the first real ovation for anyone who's been here tonight.
That's right.
Any speaker. When the movie started and when she first appeared on the screen, I don't know whether you could hear or not, but there was a burst of applause in the hall. That was the Texas delegation standing and cheering for her.
All the way across the hall now, as you can see on your screen, they are up. The delegates are up. The alternates are up. There is nobody sitting down who can stand up.
As far as I can see, everybody in the hall is clapping, cheering. Nothing like that until now.
In the Texas delegation, a number of whites are holding up the Texas state flag.
It's the first time the convention has come alive.
It has.
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, you're neither ladies nor are you gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, in case you don't know it, may I now present our second keynote speaker, the Honorable Barbara Jordan, Democrat of Houston, Texas.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for a very warm reception. It was 144 years ago that members of the Democratic Party first met in convention to select a presidential candidate. Since that time, Democrats have continued to convene once every 4 years and draft a party platform and nominate a presidential candidate. And our meeting this week is a continuation of that tradition. But there is something different about tonight. There is something special about tonight. What is different? What is special? I, Barbara Jordan, am a keynote speaker. A lot of years passed since 1832, and during that time it would have been most unusual for any national political party to ask a Barbara Jordan to deliver a keynote address. But tonight, here I am. And I feel I feel that notwithstanding the past, that my presence here is one additional bit of evidence that the American dream need not forever be deferred. Now that I have this grand distinction, what in the world am I supposed to say? I could easily spend this time praising the accomplishments of this party and attacking the Republicans, but I don't choose to do that. I could list the many problems which Americans have. I could list the problems which cause people to feel cynical, angry, frustrated. Problems which include lack of integrity in government, the feeling that the individual no longer counts, the reality of material and spiritual poverty, the feeling that the grand American experiment is failing or has failed. I could recite these problems, and then I could sit down and offer no solutions. But I don't choose to do that either. The citizens of America expect more. They deserve and they want more than a recital of problems. We are a people in a quandary about the present. We are a people in search of our future. We are a people in search of a national community. We are a people trying not only to solve the problems of the present, unemployment, inflation, but we are attempting on a larger scale to fulfill the promise of America. We are attempting to fulfill our national purpose to create and sustain a society in which all of us are equal. Throughout our history, when people have looked for new ways to solve their problems and to uphold the principles of this nation, many times they have turned to political parties. They have often turned to the Democratic Party. What is it? What is it about the Democratic Party that makes it the instrument the people use when they search for ways to shape their future? Well, I believe the answer to that question lies in our concept of governing. Our concept of governing is derived from our view of people. It is a concept deeply rooted in a set of beliefs firmly etched in the national conscience of all of us. Now, what are these beliefs? First, we believe in equality for all and privileges for none. This is a belief that each American, regardless of background, has equal standing in the public forum, all of us. Because we believe this idea so firmly, we are an inclusive rather than an exclusive party. Let everybody come. You know, I think it no accident that most of those immigrating to America in the 19th century identified with the Democratic Party. We are a heterogeneous party made up of Americans of diverse backgrounds. We believe that the people are the source of all governmental power, that the authority of the people is to be extended, not restricted.
This can be accomplished only by providing each citizen with every opportunity to participate in the management of the government. They must have that. We believe that the government, which represents the authority of all the people, not just one interest group, but all the people, has an obligation to actively, underscore actively, seek to remove those obstacles which would block individual achievement, obstacles emanating from race, sex, economic condition. The government must remove them, seek to remove them. We are a party of innovation. We do not reject our traditions, but we are willing to adapt to changing circumstances. When change we must, we are willing to suffer the discomfort of change in order to achieve a better future. We have a positive vision of the future founded on the belief that the gap between the promise and reality of America can one day be finally closed. We believe that. This, my friends, is the bedrock of our concept of governing. This is a part of the reason why Americans have turned to the Democratic Party. These are the foundations upon which a national community can be built. Let all understand that these guiding principles cannot be discarded for short-term political gains. They represent what this country is all about. They are indigenous to the American idea, and these are principles which are not negotiable. In other times, I could stand here and give this kind of exposition on the beliefs of the Democratic Party, and that would be enough. But today, that is not enough. People want more. That is not sufficient reason for the majority of the people of this country to decide to vote Democratic. We have made mistakes. We realize that. We admit our mistakes. In our haste to do all things for all people, we did not foresee the full consequences of our actions. And when the people raised their voices, we didn't hear. But our deafness was only a temporary condition and not an irreversible condition. Even as I stand here and admit that we have made mistakes, I still believe that as the people of America sit in judgment on each party, they will recognize that our mistakes were mistakes of the heart. They'll recognize that. And now, we must look to the future. Let us heed the voice of the people and recognize their common sense. If we do not, we not only blaspheme our political heritage, we ignore the common ties that bind all Americans. Many fear the future, many are distrustful of their leaders and believe that their voices are never heard. Many seek only to satisfy their private wants, to satisfy their private interests. But this is the great danger America faces, that we will cease to be one nation and become instead a collection of interest groups. City against suburb, region against region, individual against individual, each seeking to satisfy private wants, if that happens, who then will speak for America? Who then will speak for the common good? This is the question which must be answered in 1976. Are we to be one people bound together by common spirit, sharing in a common endeavor, or will we become a divided nation? For all of its uncertainty, we cannot flee the future. We must not become the new Puritans and reject our society. We must address and master the future together. It can be done if we restore the belief that we share a sense of national community, that we share a common national endeavor. It can be done. There is no executive order, there is no law that can require the American people to form a national community. This we must do as individuals. And if we do it as individuals, there is no president of the United States who can veto that decision. As a first step, we must restore our belief in ourselves. We are a generous people, so why can't we be generous with each other? We need to take to heart the words spoken by Thomas Jefferson. Let us restore the social intercourse. Let us restore to social intercourse that harmony and that affection without which liberty and even life are but dreary things. A nation is formed by the willingness of each of us to share in the responsibility for upholding the common good. A government is invigorated when each one of us is willing to participate in shaping the future of this nation. In this election year, we must define the common good and begin again to shape a common future. Let each person do his or her part. If one citizen is unwilling to participate, all of us are going to suffer. For the American idea, though it is shared by all of us, is realized in each one of us. And now, what are those of us who are elected public officials supposed to do? We call ourselves public servants. But I'll tell you this, we as public servants must set an example for the rest of the nation. It is hypocritical for the public official to admonish and exhort the people to uphold the common good if we are derelict in upholding the common good. More is required. More is required of public officials than slogans and handshakes and press releases. More is required. We must hold ourselves strictly accountable. We must provide the people with a vision of the future. If we promise as public officials, we must deliver. If we as public officials propose, we must produce. If we say to the American people, it is time for you to be sacrificial, sacrifice, if the public official says that, we must be the first to give. We must be. And again, if we make mistakes, we must be willing to admit them. We have to do that. What we have to do is strike a balance between the idea that government should do everything and the idea, the belief, that government ought to do nothing. Strike a balance. Let there be no illusions about the difficulty of forming this kind of a national community. It's tough, difficult, not easy. But a spirit of harmony will survive in America only if each of us remembers that we share a common destiny. If each of us remembers when self-interest and bitterness seem to prevail, that we share a common destiny. I have confidence that we can form this kind of national community. I have confidence that the Democratic Party can lead the way. I have that confidence. We cannot improve on the system of government handed down to us by the founders of the Republic. There is no way to improve upon that, but what we can do is to find new ways to implement that system and realize our destiny. Now, I began this speech by commenting to you on the uniqueness of a Barbara Jordan making a keynote address. Well, I am going to close my speech by quoting a Republican president. And I ask you that as you listen to these words of Abraham Lincoln, relate them to the concept of a national community in which every last one of us participates. As I would not be a slave, so I would not be a master. This expresses my idea of democracy. Whatever differs from this, to the extent of the difference, is no democracy. Thank you.
Barbara Jordan of Houston, Texas, first woman, the first black ever to address a Democratic convention as a keynote speaker. Playing The Eyes of Texas. There are
audience is clapping in time to it, shouting, cheering. She's leading the rostrum now. The Texas delegation is still waving its Lone Star flags. They're proud of her. It's the one time tonight when the delegates have sat in their chairs and listened. All of them have. When the hall was quiet. When the speaker was interrupted repeatedly for applause, fervent applause.
Chairman Robert Strauss now using the gavel to get attention, but most of the attention still on the last keynote. Well, the convention wanted some excitement, and Barbara Jordan gave them some excitement. It wouldn't surprise me, David, if along in these proceedings this week that someone might not offer Barbara Jordan's name as the vice presidential nominee, given her reception here this evening.
She's going to want to vote.
Yes, she would.
Presented, but secondly, and somewhat more modestly, we started 2 minutes late. We shall adjourn following the benediction by Rabbi Emanuel Feldman of the Congregation Beth Jacob, Atlanta, Georgia. We shall then adjourn 2 minutes early. Rabbi. Worry that they're not listening.
Blessed art thou, Lord our God, King of the universe, who giveth of his wisdom to mere flesh and blood. As we embark on America's 3rd century of freedom, we offer thanks to you, who guides the destinies of individuals and of nations. And as we begin this day the process of choosing our nation's leadership, remind us, O Lord, that you are our only leader. And as we approach the halls of power and influence, remind us also that our power is mortal and temporal, while yours is immortal and everlasting. For in the midst of the tumult and clatter of these proceedings, we need to listen to the still, small voice within us, which is yours. Teach us anew those concepts which are the bedrock of this nation, that liberty is more than merely a word, compassion more than a slogan, honesty more than a catchword, justice and mercy and equality more than platitudes. We ask of you not material things. Of these we in this land have been blessed in much abundance, but rather we ask things of the Spirit for this great republic. May we leave forever behind us hypocrisy and greed and meanness of spirit. And ultimately, may we arrive where we started 200 years ago. O Creator of all men, grant us the will and the energy to create a society in which we can have confidence in ourselves, trust in our fellow men, and faith in you. And may your own promise in your holy Bible be fulfilled in our own time, V'nosati shalom ba'oretz, and I will bestow peace upon the land, and you shall lie down, and none shall make thee afraid. Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi. Ladies and gentlemen, may I announce that the presidential nominating petitions must be filed with the Convention Secretary, Dorothy Bush, no later than 6 p.m. on Tuesday, July 13th. The chair will now entertain a motion to recess 2 minutes early until 3:30 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. The chair hears a motion. The chair hears a second. The chair declares the first session recessed. Thank you very much for a wonderful evening.